ignite that whole concoction I described, which doesn't really work out. Or, make my own, which is difficult. Oh, you guys don't even understand. He's currently, oh my god, he's limping over to the cat food, and I just, no. Apollo's my best boy. Actually, I don't think he can eat from the cat. Oh my god, I'm so sad right now. Oh my god, okay, hold on. I need to do this one thing real quick. Oh, come on, Maru. No, my cat versus... My love for my cat versus the love of Starcraft. In the top right, as the red Terran going for the 2 racks, he is Maru. Do I have the music on? Apparently, okay. And in the bottom left, as the blue Zerg, we have Dark. Just one quick second. Okay, we're here. We're good. I guess he can't eat out of the usual cat feeder, so I have to make his own little bowl. It's very sad. Anyways, we're here. We're good. Maru is 2-raxing, and Dark is sending an Overlord to the very common location of a 2-rax, which is what Maru... I mean, this is common enough. True, sometimes you would see it over here, but, you know, the meta of locations changes. Just like the meta of overall StarCraft 2. So Dark... Oh my god, are you real? No, I should see it. Just barely. Really? No? Oh my god. All I had to do was go to, like, here instead of here. And I think the Overlord would have barely seen it. Oh my god. Oh no. Also worth noting that it is a 2 racks, not a 3 racks or 4 racks, so there are definitely... There's already intentions to advance forward here in the macro game. But to get it unscouted is just the best case scenario. Well, I'm sure Dark's familiar with the scenario. He's got his way of defending against it. The Overlord here went to kind of check for what is sometimes a proxy location and then came back to see exactly this, the SCV, so at least you still have some advance notice. But of course you see 2 SCVs, you know exactly what's up. 1 Marine should not be able to kill that Overlord, so that should be safe. The drone pool is going to happen to deal with this. And this is still a proper response. Is it better to scout the 2 racks immediately to mentally prepare? Sure. But, I mean, stopping the bunker is kind of the #1 priority. And actually, the drones get a complete surround there on the ramp. Nicely done. Another complete surround of the Marine. And Maru's 2 racks actually has completely failed. SCV died. SCV died. Marines probably shouldn't be chased. They're gonna grab 1 more drone? Not even. So far, so good from Dark. And Maru needs to... Well, do what Maru does anyways, and macro out of this and be totally fine, because that's Maru, right? That is Maru. Dark's Overlord's gonna get confirmation on this. I mean, I think he already knew. He doesn't need to see the amount of barracks to tell, just based off the momentum, the pacing of the push. So he knows there's going to be a factory and there's gonna be macro, but the question more so is like, how greedy or how paranoid is Maru playing? Well, Maru is a very confident young lad, so he puts his National Command Center down on natural location, which is actually totally fine. It's just like, if we're not pros, right, it's hard to read exactly what our opponent would do or wouldn't do, blah, blah, blah. But he's actually totally fine in doing this, probably the right call. Above that, beyond that, seeing if it's a 3rd CC, if it's a battlecruiser follow-up, you know, that's really where Dark wants to get information to truly know how much he can macro himself. Holding off on that 3rd hatchery means that Maru actually gets the barracks over there to block it. Not that Dark had to do that. He could have stopped drone production a little bit earlier to get the 3rd hatchery down first, but he went for the drones first, and, well, usually that probably is the right call, so you can use a larva. In this situation, that barracks landing is actually really quite annoying. Huh. And you really don't take any of the 3rd. Really, really don't. You're not taking this space. It's actually a disaster if you take this space because Liberators are super OP on it. And you don't want to take the forward bases either. So, he does finally get rid of the barracks. Maru's going to go for one last desperate peek into the main base, which he won't get. It is also, I guess, concerning for Maru to be like, okay, where's your third? Where's your third? Where's your third? Do you intend to take a third? Are you going for a fast lair? 2-base Spire is a thing. It just isn't as common as like a 3-base Spire, so I mean, it's certainly worth trying to scout, but Maru did not get vision, so he's a little in the dark. Fusion Core is on the way. I brought up battle cruisers, and there's a reason I brought up battle cruisers, even though they've fallen out of the meta as far as like every single game is battle cruisers. Definitely still a common enough follow-up, especially to a 2-rack, so that's going to be the choice. Now we're going to be paying attention to whether or not it's multiple battle cruisers, or if we're going to go into bio or mech, and that's kind of the thing, is that if it's mech, it's Yamato, it's 2, actually 3 battle cruisers. If it's just bio, sometimes only 1, maybe 2 battle cruisers, but no Yamato. I'm still waiting on the tech lab for the barracks, but yeah, also waiting on the gas timings here, which is something that Dark probably is the only thing he's going to be able to see. He got the site on the command center and then moved the Overlord way to the south. He could see the timing of the 3rd and 4th gases, maybe. Well, definitely, the Marine can't kill it, but I mean, more so, is he even going to bother? Maru went for a pretty safe bunker, getting a handful of Hellions. Dark is pretty much just macroing right now. He is going to go for the faster Spire. That is just, it's now the meta to do so, the 3-base Spire. Bailey Nest, hold off on the upgrades. But of course, it's a little funky as far as what it usually means. Usually it means that you're behind in upgrades to the Terran when they start off with a 2-racks and follow up with a battle cruiser. I mean, when the engineering base go down. I think still faster in the evolution chambers, and I guess I'm right about that, but still. So it is going to be bio. Extra barracks are on the way. Tech Lab did finally get added on, since already 30% done. And it's just a single battle cruiser, which already got 7 drones. It's actually not that bad. Overlords might be in trouble as well. Hellions look like they're not going to do very much. Maru is pretty good at micro. Nope, they're not doing too much. Could have been worse. With the drones being pulled, we all know what can happen when just 4 Hellions get a single blast off, but not the worst case scenario. It is still nice that the battlecruiser got 8 drones and survives. Now that's a very temporary survive. Spire's on the way after all. But, actually I think it'll die. It's pretty close, actually. You know what? I take it back. I think it lives. I think it lives. Only 4 mutas on the way. They don't kill battlecruisers very quickly. Teleport will be ready. It lives. And by the way, behind this, Maru's getting a 3rd base, getting more macro, getting his upgrades. Good stuff here, getting some scouting done as well. Like, he is taking control with this single battlecruiser. Not because it necessarily did a bunch of game-ending damage, but rather just because it gives him so much insight as to what he can get away with, and so far he's gotten away with everything he can past that 2-racks. And the mutas are going to jump on top of this, but the teleport is prepared, so it gets 1 last creep tumor, and it can skedaddle. Exactly. It's like Maru's good at this game or something. Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright, double drop is... Oh, funnily enough... Ooh, shit. I was gonna say, funnily enough, scouted by Lings, but almost scouted by the mutas. Ends up kind of turning around on Dark, unfortunately for him, as he loses not 1, but 2 mutas. This is pre-combat shield, so the double stim there is a little bit concerning, but only if there were Lings to help out these mutas. Yeah. Quick check on the resources lost. A lot better. A little better, I should say, for Maru. But his upgrades looking a lot better. 1-1's finishing up as Dark is only like 25% into his upgrades. Another muta gets taken out just for a handful of Marines. Hardly even a handful. A couple SVs finally go down, but the battle cruiser is actually going to be able to provide some pretty neat base defense against mutas. When there's 16 mutas, it doesn't kill the mutas that quickly either, but obviously it takes a long time to kill itself. So it usually in tandem with a missile turret, right, or reinforcements, it's actually really annoying for the Zerg player to find damage on that side of the map. Once they're allowed to, anyways. Right now, Dark is going to be focusing more on defending the tank push headed to his 4th base. I think we've all seen this scenario 1,000 billion times. But it doesn't make it any less deadly, no matter how prepared the Zerg is mentally for this. +1 missile is done, or flyer attack, I should say, is done for the mutas. And their numbers have grown to a decent amount, 14, probably should have been 16. Without the micro mistakes. But Baneling speed is done. Creep spread is far out enough. Maru's not going to really overstay his welcome here. Actually pick up and go home. Almost finds the mutas, or rather the mutas find the Medifex. Those were both the tanks. I would have yelled if it wasn't 5:30 in the morning. That is, that's actually a really nice find for Dark. I mean, he got the 2 slowest building units and most expensive units, tanks and medevacs with that, so really nicely done for him. A little bit of reverse luck, right? For the earlier Muta lost. Yeah. Dark's got a lot of crew spread off to the left side, so he's going to be able to scout these drops. Plenty of overlords around the map as well. Taking his 5th base, it's popping up just now for his 85 workers. Maru on 77 workers is definitely going to be able to use this 4th base, so that's actually great news as far as just hoping for a macro game. If that's what you were hoping for and you're like, oh, gee, golly gee, no. Not a 2-rax. Well, we know what Maru does. He 2-raxes and then he uses it as a stepping stone to the rest of a macro game. And we are on Eternal Empire, which usually plays into macro games. Gets out of the Muta flock quickly enough. Muta's up to 22 and +2 almost done. Okay, well now they're back down to 20. Battlecruisers do start to be a little scared. So once again, pulling the SCVs to repair that. But Dark is really taking momentum control. He's got all this creep, he's got all these bases. Maru is waiting to perfect his army with upgrades and maxing out. And unfortunately, his upgrades have also been caught up with just a little bit here. Instead of being like 50 seconds faster, they're 20 seconds faster. So no timing for him, most likely. And Dark is not going to be playing into just remax. He's actually on his way to Hive. Getting some burrow as well, which I'm pretty excited. I hope that means burrowed banelings, but it probably just means burrowed lings to bother command centers. Another factory is on the way, so that's going to be triple factory production. Quadruple Widow Mines plus the Thor production. That seems to be where we're headed. Once upon a time, it was kind of suspicious to continue making Widow Mines the longer the game went, but it definitely makes a lot of sense now. I'll get into it if we don't have an engagement, but things start to look like they're about to happen. If you don't, okay. A couple of Marines almost look like they're intentionally sacrificed. I think they were. They didn't have a medevac to try and help them, so just wanted to free up supply. Finds a hatchery, doesn't kill it though. Drop to the right. Okay, well, Dark had set up for a push. I think it makes a lot of sense, seeing that the army was already prepared on that planetary not to do the push. And just a couple of tanks to really help anchor positions, defend them against a big old Baneling roll-bys, which I do like. But yeah, he still went out on the Widow Mines. Like, there's been phases, you know, it's 5-6 years ago, Legacy of the War beginning, mass ultra, like literally just ultra was a thing. And Widow Mines, despite ignoring armor, still weren't that great against ultras. But as StarCraft 2 has developed, you know, what we really found was that ultras are they're an addition. Almost like a spellcaster, kind of. Like, they're just an addition that helps you, you know, defensively for sure. Offensively is a bit of a question. But, it's really about the Ling Baneling. It's still about the Ling Baneling, even into 13, 15, 20-minute games, right? Especially since they're going to be fully upgraded in this particular game. 3-3 and a 3 glands on the way. So Widow Mines are still usually a very helpful thing to include with all of your armies. Even the super, super late game armies. Talking like Ghosts and Liberators. Also includes some Widow Mines. Yeah, I started adding on Marauders, but this map is starting to look awfully Zerg flavored. There's a lot of purple creep around here, which I can only imagine is grape flavored. That's a little bit scary to go up against. And by a little, I mean a lot. So we'll see how Maru deals with it. He's also up against a, let's say, decent number of mutas at 22. They have +2 attack, and they're working on +2 armor. Sorry, +1 armor, +3 attack. Oh my god. They already have the armor. They already... Okay, whatever. Baneling's rolling in. The Widow Mines have already been popped, so they're actually free-rolling in the 3rd base and the natural. A last-minute split on the SCVs might be able to save some of them. And Maru is on a lot of bases unless he loses one of them, so he could probably replace 25 SCVs fairly easily. It's more about how long this lasts, and actually gets cleaned up, I would say, in due time. It was not so bad, considering that Maru was a little caught off guard by Dark's ferocious attack. Like, you just don't really expect that when you seem to be prepared, but these Zerg players have gotten really good at sizing up army fights. These burrowed lings will be a problem since they are fully upgraded in just like 20 seconds here. They could actually destroy engineering bays, center towers, command centers even, without, within the 10 seconds. So, actually a little premature on the on-burrow, but it still pulls the army entirely out of position. Nothing to protect this planetary from the mutas. Marines are coming in, and it looks like Dark will not commit to it. What about this planetary to the top side? Baneling's roly-polying into the planetary, and it's gonna die. I'm pretty sure it'll die. Yeah. There's almost no reason for that situation to never end in the planetary dying. And oh, look at that! The other planetary died as well to the mutas. Maru in just 30 seconds there. Lost 2 planetaries and 35 SCVs. And while his arm supply doesn't look that bad, in fact, it's better. I mean, it's, momentum is absolutely on Dark's side. Missile turrets will not stop these upgraded mutas, that's for sure. More SCVs go down, more resources have to be pulled in to deal with the mutas, as well as prepare for any attacks to the left side. Maru's trying to split up his army correctly to deal with this, but it is so damn difficult. 15 more SCVs send Maru down to sub 50 SCVs, even though he's taking a 4th and 5th base. It's not really going so hot here, and he is probably desperately pushing across the map to get the heat off of his back. It's actually probably just an all-in, like, you know what, I'm screwed anyways, let's just go for it. I think he's right about that. Command Center's gonna go down. Thor won't be able to stop these mutas with a magic box on top of it, and being this deep onto creep does not bode well for Maru's chances to actually initiate a base trade. How often have you seen a CBD base trade, guys? Not too often. Another orbital goes down, leaving just 2 orbitals and a would-be planetary. Dark is, he's prepared. He's got Queens and Transfuse for the Ultras that are fully upgraded with their speed. He's got Banelings as well. There are the Transfuses. There's the cleanup, and there's the tap out. GG. Dark may be like, you know, it kind of looked like Maru was taking control again in the mid-game, but that was very, very brief. And then Dark just exploded. Is it just me that it's not ZG's normal live stream time? 5 a.m., not my normal stream time? That's a good guess. That kind of lived up to my expectations. I think there was just too few pushes from Maru to really feel like he was going to be able to get momentum again. After his tanks got killed, after he just let the creep envelop the map. If there's like constant action, if like one side of the map is being covered with creep but the other side still being contested, I think there's like, you know, that's the best game. That's the scenario where they both see opportunities to push and pull. When every side of the map is covered in creep, and the muta numbers have really grown, they're not being forced to trade with pushes, that's when it starts to feel like the Terran just eventually does the throw their hands up and moves across the map on a creep, which is always a death sentence, pretty much. See if it goes any better on our shortest map in the map pool, I believe. Even shorter than Everdream. In the bottom right of Submarine, we have Dark. It sounded like it canceled an egg, I'm not sure why. In the top left, as the Red Terran, it is Maru. Down 0-1, not sending out SEDs for the 2 racks. I'm like second guessing myself. Didn't he cancel something? Maybe he didn't. Maybe something just hatched and I just wasn't paying attention. I think that's actually what happened. Something just hatched and I wasn't looking at it. The hatching and the canceling sounds actually aren't that similar now that I'm thinking about it. But it is 5:30 in the morning, in my defense. You know, the hatch is more like a blak, and the cancel is more like a twish. You know what I mean? But this hour, everything sounds the same. It's going to be typical 16, 18, 17. It seems that way. Maru's going to go for that gas. Very typical openers. As I said, no 2 Roxes, and that's the most interesting thing we usually talk about for the first 2 minutes, especially when it comes to Maru. But as aggressive as Maru is known for being, as much as they like starting things off in his favor, whether that's literally, like he just has a worker lead and an economic lead and all that good stuff, or pacing-wise, he started things and now he's in control. Dark also is very capable of being that similar character, you know, doing the all-ins that might not necessarily win him the game outright, but give him more control over the game. Or actually just doing the all-ins and hoping to win. It's a little bit more flexible, right? We gotta be honest, the way that Maru has proven how flexible the 2 racks opener is, it's a little bit more flexible to do that early pressure than it is for Zerg to do something equivalent. I mean, pool first, it kind of, you know, early pressure, but usually not a big deal. If they commit to a Roach Warren off of 2 base with an early pool, that's like way more committed, and yeah, anyways. Reaper is going to miss the opportunity to kill the drone going to the 3rd base, as it wants to scout the presence of creep ASAP, and it does. Let's get a drone as well, but just gonna go for a single ling, and there's the exit, and there's the scout on the 3rd hatchery, definitely important to have. And Maru is going to be going up to a factory. We've got both gases here for our Terrans, so going up to the starport as well. Will we see Maru go mech? I really doubt it. The one chance was maybe last game if he had kept building battle cruisers, but otherwise I really doubt it, especially given the size of the map here. I really have to imagine Eternal Empire was chosen by Dark, and Maru chooses this one, and yeah, the size of the maps will give us the information as far as who picked what. It is a best of 5, so they only got 2 vetoes, so eventually you're forced to play on uncomfortable maps for your style and race. Game 1 was the Indiana Jones scene where the guy swings his sword and Indiana just pulls out a gun on him. Yeah, kind of. I would say so. We got Stim and Viking production, so very, very simple opener here. Maybe into a Liberator after this, but expediting the process to multiple barracks production, pretty much. Dark is going to be going for a Roach Warren. Oh, you don't say. ZombieGrub talks about aggression. Dark adds on a Roach Warren. Coincidence? Yes, absolutely, it's a coincidence, but I'm gonna take credit for it anyways. It doesn't look like it's going to be super early push, unless this is literally the last run of drones. He would start producing overlords to make up for supply if this was actually going to be a real push. With only 1 overlord on the way, it kind of seems like it's going to be like a I'm actually going for roaches maneuver. 1-1 push, perhaps? We have seen it as a response on some of the trickier maps for Zerg. Not necessarily on the shorter maps that make it tricky for Zerg, but more in like Nightshade, for instance, where it's still a decently sized map, but you have that really tricky rock position. Well, now he's building actually a decent number of overlords. I'm gonna take it back. I think he is gonna flood with things. He's building Ravagers. Maru's taking this seriously, and I think he should. Okay, yeah, it's actually still gonna be the all-in. I was like, well, the lair should be coming down soon, and well, nope. Just later on the Overlord burst than I would have expected, but he is going to fill it up with those lings. This has been scouted, though. You see Ravagers making, and either they're doing a very convincing job of faking you out and doing a costly fake out at that, or they're actually pushing you, and this is definitely a push. So Maru is in emergency mode. Oh, this is so dangerous to do, actually. It's such a big difference if you can kill the Ravagers and still escape from the Ling surround, but oh my god, is it scary to do. A tank is already on the way, not necessarily because Maru was prepping for this, because he was actually doing a 2-base build for a little while there. With only 1 engineering bay and 3 barracks before the 3rd CC. It's a very old build that is working favorably for the defense right now. Hellenes need to protect the tank and the Marines from the Lings, and they do so pretty darn well. The tank might have gone down, but the Lings are really complicates matters here. The Ravagers open up the opportunity, and the Lings actually get the surround, get the ACD damage done, get on top of production. Unfortunately, the engineering bay, ooh, it's not going to go down, but is it really worth saving? Unfortunately, it is so long to go, and the push is still on the front lines that I don't know if that's going to be capable of being saved. Actually, oh, Dark's going to go for the push. He's actually going to try and end this right here, but it's not going to work out despite the opportunity of a surround. They kind of saw what Dark was looking for there. It doesn't quite work out. The bunker holding strong, the tank on the high ground, and the engineering base still alive, but good god, that will take a lot of resources to continue repairing. Literally the repair, and also like 7 SCVs not mining. But with more production kicking in, right, he's going to have +1, he's going to have combat shields, he's had 3 barracks producing. he will eventually be able to bully the Ravagers back as Dark has stopped reinforcing with Lings. Now with that all-in not necessarily working out, we do have to size up their respective positions. It's a little bit weirder than normal, right? If this was a third CC, then adding on barracks, then adding on medevacs, blah blah blah. We've been in that scenario 1,000 times, but it's actually the all-in not quite working, but it's up against a 2-base build. So that does change things a little bit, because we're usually talking about massive SCV production potential, as well as double upgrades versus 0 upgrades. Now it's like, they're both gonna have 1-1 around the same time. And that third CC isn't actually even... Well, it can't really go too boldly onto the third, although it really wants to. There it goes now. So, it's like, let's see what happens. Dark is also very capable of using Ling Baneling Ravager to hold on for a very long time. It looks like he's going to actually go for Baneling, so it is just Roach Ravager with 1-1 finally on the way. They still are very good units at buying time, holding on to a game that maybe otherwise would be out, right? Because if you keep the Ravagers alive, that's the investment. That's what's really going to work out, start busting down the tanks. Unfortunately, Roach Ravager is probably the easier of the compositions to size up and correctly take engagements against, compared to Ling Baneling, which, you know, all it takes is a decent amount of creep spreads that you didn't anticipate suddenly holding your push. But this looks like Maru has sized up the army well, taking a couple of trades very boldly away from his tanks, and with such aggression, consistent aggression here, Maru will probably be able to utilize this like 10-second 1-1 upgrade lead he's going to have. I mean, his entire time is at least 1 upgrade lead, but he might even be able to use 1-1. But Dark was just on the cusp of about to build like a bunch of roaches, and it seems like he might just be able to get enough to bust this. He's gonna need another way around, though. Going up this choke against the tanks is, well, awfully dangerous. That's another reason why Lings can be very helpful here. But Maru, once again, not overstaying his welcome, packs it up, goes home, gonna try and snipe some of these Ravagers, and then, yeah, just leave it the Marines, as long as he keeps his tank alive. Adding on Marauders as well, as it is a Bio versus Roach Ravager composition. And ooh, Dark, he's setting up for that 1-1 attack, but he's also setting up a Nidus Worm. The 1-1 attack is absolutely brutal on smaller maps, if nothing else happens. And again, something did happen this game. It's a bit of a weirder one. It's absolutely brutal. It attacks so much faster than you anticipated. It reinforces so much faster than you would expect Roach Ravager to reinforce. But let's look at the actual architecture of the map. How are the tanks positioned? Some of the strongest defenses you can have against this style is when tanks can be put on a high ground and still protect your bases. I'm looking at this and I don't see too many high ground tanks, but there's a lot of doodads that, oh wow. How did Dark even see? Okay, well, actually worked out right. But I was gonna say, there's a lot of room that he has to maneuver. There's a couple of slap boats trying to make walls. This is more about not letting him notice the Nidus from the main base, though, but Maru definitely did. If the Nidus room doesn't work out in the main or the natural, then yeah, you just gotta use it for faster reinforcements, but like, with how small the map is, it only feels like so much smaller, you know? But it's still faster, that's for sure. But it really looks like the tanks are well protected, besides that one, that poor unfortunate one. The tanks are well protected, the bio count's looking really good. Upgrades are even. So we'll see if Dark can actually do it here right now. He's not even gonna grab that one tank, so it doesn't seem likely, and the bio is so bold here, not necessarily with upgrade leads, but rather so many medevacs and just pure numbers. It is going to take the fight once again without the tank support, and it looks like it's going to win it. The concave is good, and Dark is going to tap out. GG. Maru getting a little bit of a leg up that you don't usually have against that all-in that Dark chose to do by doing a 2-base build. I can almost guarantee Dark didn't anticipate that. It used to be a lot more popular when the 2-1-1 was popular, actually. It was like the 2-1-1 is developed, the 2-base push was the most common thing, then the 2-1-1 into 3-base was the most common thing, and then 2-1-1 just basically died. But anyways, yeah, you always expect the third CC, delaying barracks production, as well as sometimes, that factory production is also delayed. They choose not to make tanks, they choose to make reactors and faster barracks. And if it was that type of greedy opener on that size of a map with the slightly late scouting, like, maybe Maru doesn't hold. But certainly having the Marine production and the tank available when it was available, that certainly helped. I think anticipating Dark's 1-1 push beyond that was not, you know, it wasn't clairvoyance. I think that's actually a totally fair call. You see roaches. You ever see roaches? Like, their actual decision is to go into roaches. Anticipate that 1-1 push. That's my general advice. If they're including lings and banelings like I was talking about, then maybe they actually will try and play to a hive game, but yeah. Now we move on to another larger map. Still not as large as Eternal Empire, but much closer to Eternal Empire. Yeah, I didn't even really focus on that pool going down last game, just because, like, he was going roaches anyways, but... Alright, let's see what happens on Ice and Chrome. Already evenly matched in our last series. In the bottom left, it is the Red Zerg Dark. In the top right is the Blue Terran. We have Maru. DPG versus Jin Air. Maru too cool for his clan tag, though. He's too cool for it. Why don't you cast with X person? Because then I couldn't do it on my channel, and that seems like a bummer. We didn't know who was casting until they emailed us all at once. And, yeah, mostly it's just that I can do it on my channel. It's not the worst thing ever, at all, to cast when both of you are streaming the same game. You can still cast with each other. Maynard and Pig do it. But... honestly, it's actually so much easier to solo cast. As fun as it is to co-cast, like, Wardy's right. Wardy's talked about this before. He gets asked that question all the time. It's not so much about paying, right? Not at all. But, just, it is actually so much easier. Instead of, scheduling and then having to worry about any desync. That's the word I'm looking for. Desync on Discord and... having to make sure that they're available for this. Again, we didn't even know who was casting this until we all got the same email, like, yesterday, I didn't want to say. And a bunch of different reasons. I would say generally it's not a question worth asking. You know? But people will always ask questions. Alright, SCV Scouts doesn't stick around to block out the third, which is pretty popular to do if you bother SCV Scouting. And even with the SCV Scout, the Reaper still goes into the natural instead of trying again to block out the third. Maybe could have done it this game, doesn't bother. Once the lane kills, man. Dark's pretty good. Not gonna let us... okay, that was weird. There's some weird graphical problem here. Not even letting a single Ling die. When you're playing Starcraft in Masters League and a Reaper kills all 6 of your defensive Lings, you go, okay, you're super cool, who are you, Maru? And then they're macroing terribly behind it, right? At this stage, when you are literally talking about Maru, killing 6 Lings or even 2 Lings is actually considerable. Good defense so far from Dark. Instantly planting down a creep tumor to connect his bases as well. Maru goes for a very quick third CC. It looks like he only just got his gas, which makes a lot of sense. Just caught the tail end of that being saturated. Well, I'm surprised to see a Roachborn again. Well, he might actually be saying, okay, there's no way you're doing a 2-base attack, 2-base production in this game. There's just no way you do it twice in a row. Basically more than once on a best of 5, I wouldn't expect it. And then also on the larger maps that we have, I wouldn't expect it. So he might be trying to do the same all in and then just say, like, it's going to be a very different scenario. But Maru is not going to go for stim into Viking Liberator. Or just Viking or just Liberator. He's actually going to go into a safety Banshee, which is very helpful against someone who thinks that you're going to be defenseless, basically, against a push. And we'll see if Dark commits just like last time, but I'm kind of feeling it. Yep. You can really hold off on that Roach Warren if you're not going to use it that quickly, but... Oh, we got a lair on the way, so maybe the fear. Instill fear into Maru as he scouts. He's scouting specifically to see roaches pop out, to see lings flood across the map. Otherwise, these two Hellions and a Reaper obviously aren't going to do very much damage. He does see the Reapers. How seriously does he take it? He's actually going into a second Banshee despite not grabbing Cloak. So it looks like he's taking this very seriously. I'm actually really surprised by that second Banshee, because I think it started right before we saw roaches. Maybe it was a scenario that if he didn't see any roaches, he cancels it type thing. But this is a cool fake out. I mean, Dark still did grab like a second gas a bit faster, and he still could go into roaches. But I really wonder if this is a map that's going to be any better for that 1-1 roach push. The start of this game's a little better because he didn't, you know, kind of waste an attack, but again, looking at the map architecture, as we have the new map pool, it's still pretty new, and how it will work with setting up tanks. Maybe you put a tank up here, but actually looking at this, there's two entrances. You can come around from 2 different sides, 3 different sides, 4 different sides. Oh my god. Well, we'll see. Actually, it's going to be a Spire. Roaches for defense. No lings reduced despite getting metabolic boost, but into a Spire, and that's going to be the old switcheroo. It's going to be tricky for Maru to anticipate a Spire. You don't see a Baneling Nest. You don't actually usually expect a Spire. That's kind of the two things that go hand in hand. Let's see how much he commits to the Spire. I wonder if this is going to be like 8 mutas, basically get the surprise Pikachu face. Smar's going to be like, what the hell? And then right back into roaches, which will also make him go, what the hell? 2 Banshees going to the main base. They are not going to be scouting that Spire. Good support for our location, kind of offensively against the Banshees. And Queens instantly react. Almost grab a single Banshee, too. That is a non-scout. Whoops. Kind of a tricky location for the Spire, actually. With creep spread outs at 6.5 minutes, it's very unlikely Hellions will ever get close enough to see this location, so I like it. I like it a lot. I was just about to say, either we're going to see 1-1 start, or we're going to see Baneling Nest, and Baneling Nest came first, so maybe swapping over into good old-fashioned Ling Baneling Muta with a nice amount of Ravagers to support it. Getting a 4th base as well as a macro hatchery. Maru's got his 3rd base up where you would typically expect it on a map like this. He is still producing SUVs. No weird kind of pseudo 3 base all in. He's got 1-1 in combat shield, so I don't think so. I think he's still trying to get the correct read into what Dark is doing. And I think he did miss those mutas popping out, so he still doesn't have any missile turrets. Oh wow, he actually does. He just built them so long ago.
This better be good.
How would I ever doubt him? 3 missile turrets are actually prepared. Well, he definitely didn't stealth the Spire. This might actually just be him knowing how Dark can play, but it is an entire swap into Baneling Muta. As I said, maybe the Roaches turn into Ravagers, probably their best way of actually benefiting this army. But that also takes a lot of gas to do, so you don't usually want to get both of those when you're still early on in the game, when you don't have 4 bases up, and yeah, Dark kind of has to pick and choose. Only a couple Ravagers coming out here, and a handful of Banelings still slow. Tanks are already sieged, and Maru doesn't give a damn about the mutas, which aren't currently doing anything, by the way, as Dark is entirely focused on this push, and well, hot diggity damn. Maru actually just wins. I talked so much about what Dark could do to trip up Maru, and Maru just was like, I'm still doing this push. What you gonna do about it? Well, okay, that worked out. 4th base goes down, 7 drones go down, mutas go down. Dark is actually just dead. Dark is dead. Still no upgrades, still no Baneling speed. I mean, maybe he cleans this up, but this is a terrible position for the Zerg player. Terrible. Maru's just going to reinforce with all the mutas, or the Marines that killed the mutas, and yeah, there's a tap out. Yeah. That was actually, I guess the mutas didn't show up in time to buy any time whatsoever. When my whole focus was like, okay, so the mutas like show up, and Maru's like, okay, it's gonna deal with this first, and then do the push, and then by that time, Baneling speed's done, Banelings are done, army's in position, and instead, he just pushes while the mutas are coming across the map and bops Dark. It was a bit of a bop. Dark's trickery didn't really work out there. I mean, even the defense against the roaches, he just built one bunker, but I think knowledge of the safety banshees and continued scouting, he very quickly realized that wasn't that all in again. And the missile turrets, I mean, maybe he just always anticipates fire. He's like these damn Zergs. Fourth map is going to be Golden Wall. So if I was correct about their map choices previously, then this would actually be Maru's map choice. That's a big if. I feel like I correctly, you know, my logic worked out for the guesses, but I don't actually know. Is Golden Wall particularly favored towards Terran or Zerg in TvZ? I don't know. I just know that it provides some really fun TvZs, and that's what's most important. That we all have fun, right? The real victory are the friends we made along the way. In the bottom left, as the red Terran, he's up 2-1. It is Maru. And in the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, he is Doc. Guys, I think the sun is coming up. Beautiful. This is why I took a nap before D&D, though. Because I'm smart. How we do this? Impeccable macro. Hitting a very sharp timing. Dark being maybe a little fancy. A little more in the trickery there. A little more Loki than Thor. More tricky than just hear hammer. Hammer go boom lightning. So see if he chooses on Golden Wall. I think it's clever, you know. He went roaches legitimately one game, actually went for the all-in one game, and then into roaches, and then shows roaches around the exact same timing, which would force Maru to very strongly consider an emergency defense. It just didn't work out, I think, as well as he was hoping, first of all. And then the Spire didn't end up buying any time. I mean, I'm talking like 5 to 10 extra seconds probably would have been a big deal type of time buying. Just to have the Banelings actually in position, just to have the Ravagers actually try and get one shot of Krosabaus off, like something like that, right? And instead they did nothing. Literally they just sat in the corner. I guess maybe hindsight 2020 for Dark, he probably should have just let that push kill his 4th base and tried to recuperate afterwards, but maybe more of like a, oh snap, it's already here, let me try and jump on top of it. No, that didn't work. Okay then. I think Zerg players experience that a decent amount. Another SCV scout, making sure that nothing super early comes his way, but again, not bothering to stick around at the 3rd hatch. I really like when this SCV sticks around. Obviously, that's a lot of lost mining time when Terrans already have SCVs building and losing mining time. But, gosh, I feel like it's so annoying for the Zerg play to deal with. Maru doesn't want it. That's fine. That's fine. Another 3rd CC build, it looks like here. Well, actually, he's going to afford the Starcraft. No, it's 3rd CC. I was like, that SCV is in the 3rd CC position. But no 2nd gas. You'd have to not open with a Reaper, I guess, or not go for a reactor, which would just be absurd. Actually still go for the 3rd structure being a starport. Yeah. So, similar build to last game. And we'll see if Dark goes for... I want to say he just goes for 3 hatch Muta. Bring it back to the normal basics here. Don't play roaches on Golden Wall either. It just seems like a bad idea. Same as how people were like, oh, maybe Mech's gonna be good on Golden Wall. No. No, people kind of gave up on that idea as well. The sun is just coming up. I mean, it's 6 a.m. The sun has probably been coming up for like 45 minutes. It's just now was bright enough for me to notice behind my blackout curtains. We got that 3-base lair like I was hoping for. I really didn't want to see roaches. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's only 2 builds and it's either 3 hatch lair or for Spire or its roaches, but yeah, the fast upgrade response to Terran pushes, the Terran push, the 2-tank push, right? It just really is falling out here. Maru actually doing something I did not anticipate and going into Banshees with Cloak this time. Just kidding. Stupid. Why would I ever say that? It looks like he just did it to fake out the Overlord, so that's cool stuff. He's still going to get a safety Banshee, so it is very much so like the last game. Maybe he goes for the second Banshee. It is surprising if they don't get Cloak to see more than one, but I mean, seems to have liked it. I guess there's certainly some arguments to be made about how effective Cloak is, as opposed to just simply having 2 Banshees, right? But anyways. And the Baneling Nest? Baneling Nest seems a little bit late. Of course, Dark did Scout's Tech Lab spin in here, so he's going to need to produce Spore Crawlers. That's not the worst case scenario to have Spore Crawlers and not be up against 2 Banshees with Cloak, but it is something you'd usually not want to do. Is it just me, or is that Baneling Nest late? I mean, this could just be a decision. Every last scrap of gas and minerals into the mutas, but usually they come down pretty close to each other. And then there's a bit of a frightening part where it's like, did I do this correctly? Do I have centrifugal hooks ready in time? But if you're gonna just wait this entire time to get Baneling Nest, I would say I wouldn't be prepared, right? See if the payoff is worth it. Maru's gonna take that forward position base, not just for the gold, but also because it's the forward position, kind of protect and attack from this location. But also it's a gold, and that's really nice. And you don't really need too much gas as a bio player. There is the Baneling Nest now, so yeah, an intentional just delay of the Baneling Nest there's always difficult hooks finishes before the first push, so the mutas have got to do their job here, which is always your hope. You always hope the mutas buy a lot of time, but does it always happen? No. How many games have we seen with the same opener with Banelings and they still get killed around their 4th base defense? Too many games. So that's you know, still scary. But Maru, you know, only went for 1 tank to begin with. Oh, it just popped out. Okay. There's the second tank, go for the push. Could be bad news, but starting off with a drop, nice and quick into that drop, actually. So he just looks like he traded faster Tech Lab factory production for faster reactors. Getting the drop all ready to go, but unfortunately the mutas are also all ready to go, hitting that 3rd base far faster and maybe in slightly greater numbers than Maru was anticipating. ACVs immediately go down. 8, I said that weird. And the missile turrets are just not prepared. The Marines have to come back home, so any map control that Maru was hoping to grab is now completely lost in favor of Dark, who's going to continue spreading out that creep. That drop just really did not last very long. And the mutas, of course, get away. And with all that time bots, I mean, no second tank was even produced. Yeah, keep us counting the tanks, Jesus. Every time, I'm like, I don't see it producing. Oh, it literally just popped. Cool, 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 cool. And that one's going to die anyways. The point is, even if these mutas had not been such a surprise, then so much damage with their first little attack here. Finally, 1 does go down. It feels like they would have bought enough time for centrifugal hooks to finish. It's got like 15 seconds to go, and 1-1 is on the way, whereas Maru has been significantly delayed on his 2-2. Now, it looks like Maru is going to be going for the 8-rock style of consistent pressure, but already losing so much momentum. I have shifted my stance of being scared for Dark to being like, oh god, Dark just wins this super easily, doesn't he? I mean, 4 bases, macro hatch on the way, muta counts getting to that nice number of like 15-ish with +1. And then the rest just goes into lane Baneling. He's already on 84 drones, you guys. 84. 84, that's a lot. And it's not like it's going to be one of those situations where they're both maxed out and we're like, well, that's 30 supply, not an army. Like, no. Maru's going to try to push out into a maxed out Dark with him only at 160, 170 supply. And it's going to be bad times. So I don't know if Maru can actually do what he was planning, but you've already invested into it. No second factory, no 4th CC. I don't think you can't not do it. Get a couple mutas actually pretty nice, but that's the first step. Got to clear up some of this creep. Dark already on his way to a 5th base to really utilize these 88 drones. 1-1 upgrades finally finishing for Dark as well. Maru still has a significant lead on 2-2. despite the armory being delayed there. That's something. 2-2 push might still be able to work out. Maybe he pushes into this location and Dark kind of mishandles the engagements. Maybe there's a drop in the main base while it goes on. Speaking of the main base, creep straight already down to the south side. I mean, helpful for drop detection as well as in case this did go to a super long game. Already covering that side with creep is pretty good. I think Dark, not seeing a fourth base around the natural or the third, should be figuring out the 8 racks. If he couldn't just literally count the number of barracks with all the meter harassment he's been doing. So, he's got to know that that's still going to be scary. It looks like this will be a maxed out scenario, by the way. Maru had to wait a long time, but he is maxed out. Dark is going to be lower on the army supply. The Zerg players have gotten very comfortable with being about 20 to 30 armor supply lower than their opponent and still making things work with Ling being Minuta on creep. Tutu's about to finish, but already a decent chunk of Marines being torn down. Maru is, pretty all-in with this. It's not impossible for him to actually provide so much pressure that he does also build a fourth base behind this. It's just not really the intention of the build. Dark actually fitting in not just high, but also 2-2-2 will not help him yet. This will not help him anytime soon, really. Maybe eventually Vipers will help out. That's a long ways away. I think he has to give up the gold base, or actually he's going to try and defend it. A lot of the tanks, I mean, they're still sieged, but they weren't well protected by bio, so a lot of their shots maybe not the best. There's still so much bio behind them, though, that while Dark takes out some of those siege tanks, the slower building factory units, there's still so many Marines behind that. Again, Minuta's being shaved off, just the Dark not quite controlling around the Marines well enough, and now the siege tanks just, like, bullying their way into the natural of all places. Like, they are really going for the throat here. Only 2 tanks left alive and 1 very, very low. The Mutas could try and come back in and snipe that away, and then we're talking about Banelings on creep versus bio. Usually goes pretty well for the Zerg player. 2-2 is about to finish, so we could just be waiting for Dark to pull the trigger on that. The hatchery, I don't think is going to go down. There's the trigger being pulled right here, right now. Tank does go down to that backside. This tank also going to go down, and this is actually going to be a complete swamp of Zerg. Maru down 70 supply at the end of that engagement, despite how promising that looked the last engagement. The lack of splash damage was just like, it's just something, you need it. You need it, unfortunately, especially if you're going to be on creep. And the counterattack is going to be too damn good. Dark, who cares? Who cares if I had 30 more drones and less army supply? Chip, chip, chip away, and then, well, big ol' surround of units. They removed 3 maps and put in new maps. I don't know what the conversation in chat's about. That tied us up, by the way. 2-2. Maru and Dark. It's what we would love to see, and we got it. We got it. Pillars of Gold is our last map. Now, as far as I saw, Zerg players immediately started saying how this is going to be so difficult to play against Zerg Terran on because of some cliff positions. Do I actually think that it's going to be favored for the Terran here? I don't know about that. I don't know. It's a map that's still being figured out. Generally, those Terrans do well in the first week or two of a brand new map pool, but Zerg players figure out where to position their army, where to anticipate pushes, and all that good stuff. So where's it live Pillars of Gold? Maybe talk about the rush distance a little bit. It's more along the lines of Ice and Chrome, I'm pretty sure. 37-second rush distance, I want to say. We'll look more on the map after the intros. It's all tied up 2-2 in the bottom left. There's the blue Zerg. He is Dark. On the top right is the red Terran. It's Maru. And yeah, let's take a quick look at the map. So the most difficult thing about the map that we would first see is the third base locations. It's not nice and tucked into each other. Even the triangle pattern of base taking is still a lot of room for drops. And you don't necessarily want to just have to wrap around these two chokes into this potential problem. If this base isn't exactly super close or super protected either, with pushes coming from here and tanks on this high ground. But at least you got some time to buy to figure things out. So it's a new map. It's an interesting one. There are some wide open spaces, you know, throughout the map that are going to be good for Zerg surrounds, but maybe that's more of a mid-game thing than or mid to late game thing rather than the mid-game. We'll see if we even get there. Depending on how Dark wants to play it, I feel more than Maru. Which is a little bit odd to say. It's usually Terran kind of with the control here. At the steering wheel. They're deciding the flow. But not if they're just going to go for a third CC. Especially the faster third CC Maru's been going for. Whereas Dark has shown us at least 2 Roach builds. And could try again here on a unfamiliar map. I mean, by this time, these guys have probably played hundreds of games on these maps. But repetition doesn't necessarily mean you understand the map to its fullest degree, right? It takes that one guy on ladder to be like, you should try this thing, and then suddenly that thing is the new go-to. And not because he played 1,000 matches, but because the guy just tried something different and new. I am very excited to see what they do. Especially the Terran. How do they expand? What pushes do they do here? Because I look at this, and as you know, scary as it is for any race to look at how close their bases are, I'm a Terran player, and I'm the most scared for Terrans. Seeing that orbital float down to a third that's far away, I'm like, ooh, let's charge up run by. Ooh, that's dead. Hashtag Terran bias. Reaper is going to live, not quite get a Ling. Did it scout the third hatch? No, but it will. There we go. Yep. I do believe this is the common third hatch. So here we go. He comes back in. Alright. Double gas, so no fast third CC here. So we'll be going into the starport and committing maybe a little bit heavier on that as well. We'll see. Kind of gone for 2 Banshees or 1 Banshee. Not actually investing in the cloak so far, though. We could even... we haven't really talked about the possibilities that Maru has in the mid-game. Of course, we still have to talk about the armory. Which we didn't really talk about as far as hiding those Widow Mines, by the way, but I don't think it mattered. The only times we saw a decent number of Widow Mines was, like, the first map on Eternal Empire, and yeah, I don't think they mattered, that they were hidden by the armory. But anyways, it could be Hellbat pushes, it's absolutely not. Starting off with the Viking, getting into Stim. Alright, just going up to the starport for the added harassment. And Dark is going to add on a Roach Horn once again. I don't know what... I didn't quite want to reach so far as to say I see this as a Roach map for Dark. Just because I haven't really figured out my own stance on the map. But my gut was kind of like, Roaches. 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 And I don't know if that's because I have heard that Zergs are more uncomfortable on this map, and it seems that if they're uncomfortable on a map, they do hope to go for a push or an all-in beforehand, right? That makes a lot of sense. Or if it's just Dark. And despite Dark being an excellent Baneling player, yep. He just, for me, is just a Roach guy. Not quite the Roach layer boy, maybe Sue is, but yeah, Roach guy. So Maru's going to see the Roaches eventually, and we'll see how much he panics. Last time he did a very appropriate job of defending and still had a very crisp build that won him the map, Ice and Chrome. Is that going to happen here? 6 Overlords on the way? No, he's actually pushing. 7 Overlords on the way? Okay, that's going to fill up with Roaches, okay? It's called a Overlord bomb. Oh my god, he's built 7 Overlords and then is building a lair? Hello? He's going to have so much supply to work with. I mean, he is showing the Roaches. But he's actually not committing here. Maybe because it was scouted? Or maybe he's just so used to building that many Overlords at this time? Huh. Well, once again, Maru reading this very quickly, sees the army actually retreat. This Viking is actually being a complete boss. It doesn't help for the actual all-in, really, like a Banshee would, but this Viking is incredible. It just scouted that it was a fake very, very quickly, and now Maru just goes back into regular macro mode. All he did was build a bunker, and then he's just like, nope, don't need it. He was already building tanks anyways, and oh my god, I just realized he didn't add a third CC at all. Oh my god, I really didn't think this was going to happen. 2 games in a best of 5, but here we are. The 2 base start, at the very least. There's a third on the way now, as we can see, but you don't get a faster third. You don't get double upgrades. And I don't know if I like this for Maru anymore. I don't know if this is something that he wanted to do on this map, no matter what happened. Or if it's him really trying to read in the past, you know, games of this series and being like, you're going to do that again. You're going to try and all-in me again. So I'm going to stop that, but the situation we're in is that Dark didn't all in. He is getting up to 3-4 bases, maybe even, right? With 1-1. And Maru is going to have to do some damage with this 2-base push. I just don't feel confident. I've actually not felt confident about 2-base pushes since they stopped being a thing. There's a reason they stopped being the thing. The thing to do. A thing to do. Whether it's against Ling Baneling or Roaches, so I don't know, man. Double drop trying to clear up creep is actually doing a pretty damn good job of it. Not a whole lot of queens here. Dark scouting out for the 3rd base of a Terran. Did not get a lot of information, so I can't, I don't think, because the 3rd, you know, could be in the main base, absolutely. I'm not sure that Dark could actually read into the scout he did get and say that, you know, immediately, oh, okay, it's a 2-base build, but now I think he's figured it out. He's figuring it out. Maru didn't do the push at all, and instead just went to, you know, just macroed, which is probably the better. Yeah, I definitely like this more than doing the push, but I'm still stuck on the whole I don't like the builds sizing up against each other. Okay, and he does a push, which I really don't like. Oh, I think this actually is not good. Oh, no. Oh, God. Defensively, I was already a little suspicious. I mean, a 40 armor supply, or 40 overall supply difference is not impossible at all for the Terran player to defend with. It's actually still pretty nice against Roach Ravager, right? We're also talking about better upgrades for Dark and what could have been a better positioning, but it's actually Maru bringing the fight to Dark first, which surprised me, also probably surprised Dark. He just cancels the 4th base, which kind of looks like it was off location anyways. I don't know about that. Drop in the main base. Wow. Maru not playing this game at all like I would have anticipated. Not playing the game as it is at all like I anticipated. And now Dark, who's probably about to prepare for moving out on the map himself, is forced to defend. He's lost the 1-1 upgrades. He's going to lose a couple Ravagers that were doing stuff. Sending Ravagers to be a harassment force is like not what you usually want. And now Dark, okay, he's just going to commit. Just gonna commit for it. Alright. Nice swift pickup on the tank, but Maru's army is on this side of the map, and does he really want to try to base trade even a Roach Zerg? It's always scary to do that, but when there's no Banelings involved, it does get a little bit easier to actually run onto this creep and start a real, true base trade. And it's actually Dark who realizes that maybe this wasn't the best idea. He causes a lift off, but Maru otherwise just pulls back to the natural. He's gonna pull back to try and deal with the push entirely, and if he does, if he catches all the tanks, siege, and destroys them without letting them be picked up in the medevacs, well, then that would be great. Unfortunately, he doesn't. He didn't catch them. Maru had escape plans from the get-go. As soon as he realized the army was coming back home, he knew what he was going to do. He was going to pick up and leave. And that worked out very, very well for Maru. He's still down 50 supply, though, so it's still a scary situation, and his tanks aren't properly siege up to defend his 3rd, so I don't know about actually taking this again. Considering how this game was going on, I'm actually really surprised that he took this. I mean, I know eventually he has to take it, of course, but this is one of the dangerous times to do so while you've picked up and are still returning back home, right? But I guess the threat of a Bass Doom drop in the main was also something the Zerg have to consider. I mean, you just don't have these situations happen that often, so a lot of things to consider. Mass Support Crow is coming up against those potential Doom drops. Dark did start up his 2-2, was adding on a Baneling as an Infestation Pit. Like I was saying in the previous games, if it's just Roaches, 1-1 push is anticipated. If it's going to be any further, any more of a macro game, I think you really got to add on the Banelings. Pure Roach, Ravager, we're adding in Hydras. Nah, it doesn't really work out very well. What an interesting game. And at this point, at 10.5 minutes, it actually just looks like a total normal game to start as well. Both going with double upgrades, both countering each other's compositions, and Dark trying to get to his hive, as well as to centrifugal hooks, which that definitely looks odd, but it will eventually finish. It's 3 infestors on the way. Now, they don't have passing glands, but they will eventually accrue enough energy to get some decent fungals, if not beautiful fungals. Need to bring that back. 2-2 finishing faster for Dark as Maru starts kind of the drop phase of this TvZ. Quadruple drops to the right, double drops to the left, even cancels at this point is pretty good. He can consistently cancel, but he would be looking more so probably for like a good 20 drones. Or catching Ravagers that are missed splits. Doesn't find it there, and will not find access into the main base. Is it a TVT? Is this a turret ring? Hello? You don't see Spore Crawler rings that often. Dark also transferring over into melee upgrades, which makes sense as he's changing up his composition more and more to be Ling-Daemon Ravager than any of these pesky little roaches. Could also help any potential Broodlord swap, but I don't think we have to worry about that anytime soon. Definitely Ultras would come down first. Fungals are looking for the correct hits, but with tank sieged up, no fungals to be found. Actually, yeah, Dark's gonna have to give that base. And uh-oh. He's okay giving up this right base. I don't think he's good giving up this left base. And it does go down. I mean, the good news is Dark has not actually had to trade in a little while here. Not really, so he has enough minerals to double or even triple expand. But, and he didn't lose any drones, but still. This is a very inefficient mining. The other good news for Dark is that he has been scouting the presence, or lack thereof, of Maru's 4th base. He's still building it, finally transferring it over. But that does give a little bit more information as to Dark's actual economic position, which is good for him. Infestors with Burrow are actually sharking around, looking for those perfect fungals. This one is barely missed, which sucks because now he just simply doesn't know that this is an option. Otherwise, he might be scanning preemptively. Oh my god, the big collapsing from Dark is going to be so cool. Oh, the fungal to the left side, the tanks aren't sieged. And this is actually starting off so damn well for Dark. Maru does pull back the majority of his bio, and he has a heck of a lot of medevacs here to save a couple of those tanks and heal up the bio. But oof, that was a good start, and one more fungal is ready on that right side. But this time he's going to split. He's going to be able to siege up at least a little bit here. But the Vipers are now out. A new problem as Maru wanted to pressure that 4th base again. Instead, he's being almost pushed back. Not quite, though. This fungal needs to land for the Banelings, but hold on. No more Banelings. They've all been depleted. Just one more here, and then we're down to Ravagers, which still do take advantage of a fungal, don't get me wrong. But really, the bungles? You know what? I'm going to go with it. The Baneling fungals and the bungles. That's what really usually wants to happen. That was still a fantastic fungal. The stimmed army, the injured army, plus the fungal put them so far down into the red and yellow that Maru is forced to retreat against the consistent DPS of the Roach Ravager. And that was a really cool hold there from Dark. It's a lot more complicated if he lets Maru up against this location, up against these chokes with all of those tanks, with all of that bio. But he was able to buy a couple of really good engagements, because otherwise his creep spread was not looking so hot. He's trying to get back on that, though. He's going to really explode in probably a second here. Right side once again being taken. Maru is going to be on top of that, though. He's not going to let that go by for free. Thank you very much, WikiLeaks, for the gifted subs. And he's also making sure to burrow lings around the map so that Maru doesn't get away with any freebie command centers or, God forbid, orbital commands. Baneling's going to roll into the 3rd base, and Maru is simply not paying attention, so a decent chunk of SCVs and mules going down. There's going to be a cancel there, and maybe a couple of drones going down as well, but the left side's looking well defended. Yeah, I just didn't start that hatchery. Was the Ultra Cavern finished? It is. Not yet. It's upgrading, though. Oh, we just actually sniped the hatchery. Took me a second there to realize what he was doing, and the hatchery was dead. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what he's doing. Another 3, thank you very much. 3-3 has finished up here for Maru, but I don't see any presence of extra command centers. He has not quite been maxed out long enough to accrue that much of a bank, but yeah, I think he's getting there. So there we finally see an extra command center. Also going into the armory upgrades, we could even see something like building armor finish up as well. Not that it really helps against Banelings, but yeah. Kind of, you know, sometimes. Helps against Lings or Ravage. Okay, well, that doesn't actually die. That is awkward. Spore Crawler could move, but it looks like Dark is being is focusing on other things here. Still has the burrowed infestors, which, by the way, are these infestors gigantic or am I crazy? I'm gonna have to reevaluate that. I didn't notice it at first because I was zoomed out, but those are humongous infestors, no? Well, anyways. This is a very chonky army here, so even if the Banelings actually connect, the Marauders plus the Medivacs don't seem to really care. Dark was so late to starting his upgrades on that Ultralisk Cavern that while he is getting Ultras, Carapace is not close to being finished, so he has to be very careful with how he uses those. He is just full-on defending as Maru tries to find little bops here and there on hatcheries. He's probably not going to find an actual deadly push until he collects all of his forces together, which means that as long as Dark is replacing the hatcheries, then he should be okay. But now we're also talking about actual engagements. A big loss of Banelings may not have been worth it as a direct trade. So much of the bio still left over, but the right side going a little bit better, perhaps. Parasitic Bomb also on some very weak Medivacs. Finally going to grab those expensive and slow-building gals. Ultra is here, but it doesn't have the upgrades. But the army is very low. There we go. Just a little bit of kiting, and now Maru's going to really dig into this left side, and that's going to be Dark's fifth base once again killed. He has not been able to fifth base in this game. He's also been lacking a fourth for much of the game, but the infestors once again from behind. This time, though, they're going to sacrifice their lives for that fungal. As Chitinous Plating finishes, it looks like the Ultras will be enough to push this back, but it was a very costly defense, and Dark doesn't have the bank he used to. This has been engagement after engagement, not a direct all-in engagement with just one big force against another, but still trading out on two different fronts, starting to really wear down Dark here. He doesn't have the economy. If he was able to get a fifth base consistently, I think that he does have enough of a bank to continue holding, continue reaching towards a sixth base, but he's been missing a fifth, he's been missing a fourth, he's been missing drones, and he's had not really an opportunity to initiate a lot of counterattacks. Just a couple of Banelings that did okay, but now he's starting to get really worried how much Maru is starting to expand. This Ling was cleaned up, so it scouted the orbital, so that should definitely be a pressure point for Dark here, but Maru knows that as well. He cleaned up the Ling after all, so he's going to start reinforcing that position while also continuing the drops and the pressure off the left side and expanding to the left side too. Dark is just simply wearing thin. He's gone from a nice 170 supply with a couple of crucial elements like Vipers, Ultras, and Infestors to being at 120 supply, back down to just basically Ling, Ravager, hardly any Banelings, only a couple Ultras on the way. Maru has done a great job in this mid-game to win outs. I mean, these hatch snipes sometimes aren't worth it, but he's been able to evacuate with a lot of the units that do these hatch snipes, and he's always done one or two, basically two or more hatch snipes or cancels or kills or whatever, right? It's always been two things at once that Dark's had trouble defending against, miss-splitting, losing out on economy, and Maru has not really been touched otherwise. 9 SCVs and a handful of mules was not they weren't killed at a point that it really, truly mattered. And Maru is now taking the entire map. He's cleaned up a lot of the creep spread. Not that he seems to really worry about creep spread anymore. He's just focused firing down these single Ultras. And I think Dark knows that his time is almost up here. It was a grueling best of 5. But Maru will be getting that last spot into the DreamHack Masters Summer Season Finals. I'll get it. I'll get it eventually. It'll roll off the tongue one day. Anyways, yeah, that is 6 players now determined in those